Hey, what's going on, everybody? BDF 44 coming at you with another video. All right, now we gotta have a real conversation about something. I guess I'll make it a therapy session. I may not. I'm not sure, but it's a real conversation because Skip Bayless' tweets have been taken um, the in a way that people are offended by. I guess that's what I would word it. Um, you know, it's just a terrible situation. A young fellow on the football field, a young player, Hamlin. Um, with the situation where he went down with cardiac arrest on the field today. Prayers out to him. We've talked about that several times. Made video about it a little earlier, and Skip Bayless's tweet is just being really taken in a really negative way, and essentially what he was saying was Hamlin, having gone down, this is a very important game, and he just doesn't know how they're going to cancel it. More or less paraphrasing, but he was saying, they're definitely going to cancel it, but it's just how. When it has such important ramifications, this game, but it seems so irrelevant at this point. It's all just so irrelevant, and it's like I get that part is important. He understands that it's irrelevant because life comes first, but people didn't see that part. And Skip has a lot of folks who are holding him accountable for the first for the way that comes off. Just not speaking of Hamlin as a person. This is life or death. Like, we can't be so insensitive to understand that when football is no longer important. When sports no longer important, when money no longer is the focus. We got to talk about life or death now, and it has a certain tone when you're speaking to the world. You have a responsibility to have some sensitivity when you have a voice like Skip's. It's going to be a lot of people in a lot of different mindsets who are going to receive what you say in a very sensitive time when they don't know how he's doing. It's like they don't want to read that. They don't want to read that, yo. And a lot of people don't have tone for that. They don't have a sensitivity for that. Maybe that's not a strength of some people. I've known people like that who they just don't know how to say what they need to say, so they probably shouldn't say, but they're going to say because, that's just the flaw in them. Skip's one of those people, I guess, it seems. And he always words things a certain way for controversy. He takes a hater approach, so it's his brand to be somebody that everybody hates, but not in this way. This is a different kind of energy, dude. This is not tongue-in-cheek. This is not a time for sports, and I think that's the point. I think that's what people want him to understand, whether they're angry at him or not. This ain't the time for sports. It's time to turn your sports mind off and turn your human mind on. If you don't have a human mind, it's time to shut up when everybody else is feeling something. And so that's just what's appropriate, I believe, and that's what he's getting backlash for not understanding. If you know yourself to be someone who words things improperly, and you know for a fact you rub people the wrong way with your energy, then you know what consequences come from doing things like this, and not gonna be good. You probably should guard against that. You know what I mean? Especially in sensitive moments when people are feeling a certain way. Maybe you should be the guy that doesn't speak at all. But Skip, when he's reacting to a football game, it's like he's in his football mind. I can see him somewhere really warped into it, and that's what he is. Football is his life. He's one of them people. He thinks the game, and thinking the game as somebody who doesn't play it like myself. We tend to look at it as paper, numbers on a page, because pieces have to move around. Talk about people's salary as if it's frivolous, because that's what is required in these systems, that these sports players be paid, in a cap system, so that it's a pie. You got to give pieces of the pie to certain people. So if they give too much of the pie to this guy, you don't give enough to that guy, and your team struggles because of it. So it's like we talk about these things as if they don't have people and humans and emotions and lives and families attached to them. And it gets us in trouble, and I include myself because I know I talk like Skip does too. I speak that way. I don't speak as if people are actually people a lot of times when I'm referring to the game. You know what I mean? I literally don't. And I hear that how I label things and I say things, I don't have my heart attached to it at all. Because if you guys listen to how I speak about human stuff, you know that there's a separation there. And I'm hoping other people understand that when they hear me talk about the Lakers. I'm saying that piece, this piece, that guy, why, and even sometimes I won't even refer to people as humans. Just in the middle of what it is I'm doing, I'm like, and that piece, and why would you put that piece on the floor? And I hear myself, and I'm like, yo, that's a human. That's somebody with kids. But in the context of basketball, when we're thinking in the sport of basketball, there are also pieces to a puzzle that requires things to fit. in a certain way so that it makes sense. So it's like, if you're in your football mode, you're in the middle of watching a football game, it has all this stuff, you're a professional, it's your whole life, and you're tweeting in the moment. In that moment, you're in that football mind. But if you don't have that human side of you to turn it off, to be aware that you're communicating something to a wide public that ain't in that mindset, that ain't going to interpret what you're saying right, that is living through various levels of sensitivity and understandings of what they're going on, and it's a traumatic moment that we all faced, and you're going to broadcast to your wide fan base, which is over 1 million people, your thoughts. And it's like, you got to be sensitive to what it is they're going to receive when you do that. And if you're not going to do that, then you gotta understand where you're flawed there, and that is your responsibility not to be like that. So that's where I gotta grow, and it's obvious Skip is gonna have to learn that lesson the hard way. That's just what it is. And so for me, it's like, I don't know how to get better at that, to be honest with you, because for me, it's like, I really do look at this thing as a chess piece. It's chess pieces on the board when I'm talking about the Lakers, and I will remove pieces off the board accordingly. But when it's time for life or death, I'm deeply hoping that things work for guys. I'm praying for people, and I talk about those things in this camera and videos and stuff like that to try to give some balance to that. So if I called a guy a piece or that or whatever, some weird stuff, you also will hear me fighting to see that the environment that he's in is a good one for his mental, for his everything. That's one of the things that I fight for. So I hope that the balance is there, that y'all will get both from me, so that, my flaws can also be seen with my good intentions. And hopefully it can have some ramifications for positivity for these athletes. While I'm calling them chess pieces, I hope that something I'm saying can help provide them, some support. Some way, maybe something that I can say can help them on the court. Maybe they hear something I see, and it helps them succeed on the basketball floor. Maybe that'll make up for me not calling them a human being in the moment. But best believe, if they're going through human stuff, I'm going to treat it like a human being. I'm going to pray for them or whatever I'm going to do in regards to how I see the situation. Speak about it like a human being. And so that's what it's about. It's finding that humanity within oneself and challenging oneself to be better. And that's what I always do. That's one of the reasons why I'm on this channel the way that I am. It's because I want to challenge myself to be better, fix whatever I got going on that needs to be fixed, and ultimately continue to balance out what it is I need to balance in regards to my own perception of self, so that I know how I come off. You see what I'm saying? You won't ever know unless you put a camera on yourself and really see how you act and see how you behave. Not only when the camera's on, but sometimes even when you don't know the camera's on, you might want to. It may be beneficial to have seen yourself in those settings, to see how you come off. So I just think Skip Bayless is going to take on a lot of heat. There are people who are going to willfully not interpret his tweet properly because they are not pleased with him. And this is a great opportunity to remind everybody that this is somebody they don't like, and remind everybody that this is somebody who's hurt their feelings. And it's one of those situations where I think it's kind of disingenuous in a way for some who do interpret what he's saying the way that he intended for it to be interpreted, and are kind of swaying others who actually are not interpreting it properly, who don't understand the fullness of what it is he was trying to convey, or are not as clear on what it is that he's saying, as maybe a few of us are, because I realize that there are a few of us who actually understood what he was trying to convey when he was tweeting that, which was the fullness of, this is a football game that is important, but now that this has happened, it's irrelevant that the football game is taking place. This game is important, but that just seems so irrelevant at this point. It's because I've listened to so much Skip Bayless that I heard in my head the way that he says certain things, and I know the context of which he was saying it because I watched the show every day for the last 10 years. So I know, I've seen him do this kind of thing. I've seen him have to provide qualifiers over the years, so I just kind of understand. And that's the thing. It's like a lot of people who don't watch this dude like that, you ain't never, ever, ever going to read that tweet in the way that you would understand and receive his image on, you know what I mean? Because he's like this. He going to do this. He going to say that. He going to do that. And then you will also see him in situations where the topic is entirely different, where he's in his human mode, and you will see him do certain things and say certain things that will remind you that there's a person in there. And so that's the thing about Skip Bayless. He needs to do that again. He needs to get back to that. And whatever else. You know what I mean? I ain't gonna tell a grown man who's twice my age what I think about what he's doing. You know what I mean? Saying, oh, you need to. I don't know if that's the right way to go, but what I can say is what I see is if he wants to go forward with the same energy that he's had in the past in regards to people supporting his show, he's gonna have to learn with the times. He's gonna have to grow with the times, man. You have to grow with the times, because this is what we talked about in regards to Skip Bayless on this channel. That Russell Westbrook bullying, that's a bad look. We go back in the past. We look back at how he handled certain other athletes, Terrell Owens. You know, these things pile up, man, and people, you know, they don't forget at all. You know what you did to get yourself to this level, whose back you stood on, who had to be the brunt of the jokes, who got the punishment for Skip Bayless to reach this level. Now it's like, yo, some of them, they see this moment, they're like, nah, go get him. Let's get him now. This is our moment. He slipped up. Let's get him. And that's exactly what I'm seeing online right now. That's exactly what I'm seeing. You know, they're interpreting his tweet in the worst way, and they're blasting him emotionally to high hell. And I just know that energy's due, because these are the same people he used to blast back in the day. It's like, yeah, bro, they gon' for sure not give you the benefit of the doubt. They for sure gonna admit the last couple words in the tweet. You know what I'm saying? They for sure gonna do that, because you gave them energy that allowed them to have that type of resentment, to hate you like that. So now that energy comes back to you like a boomerang. So this is why you put out good energy, man. I'm telling you, if Skip Bayless would have been the nicest guy ever all this time, you know what I mean, and had the best energy possible all this time, when this occurred, you would have all those people not doing that. It wouldn't have been like that. They would have been like, wow, this is messed up. But they wouldn't have been hitting him with the cancel him, get him out of here. Don't. They would have been trying to give him an opportunity to say what his qualifier is, read the last end of that tweet to say, okay, well, at least he acknowledged that this is irrelevant since this kid is in this situation. Nah, none of that. All they saw was him talk about the level of what's going on in regards to football, the game being important, and that's it. And it's like, it was more to what he said that was conveyed there. And I don't think he articulated himself as well as he would need to for a lot of people who don't speak the English language to an absolute T. You know what I'm saying? People will not necessarily interpret every word the way it's supposed to be interpreted in the English language exactly. They're going to look at that. They're going to look at that a certain way, especially on first glance. And that's important. That's why our articulation and understanding is important, because there are different levels of understanding the English language, man. People will take what you said the wrong way based on how you space words, or a comma, or not having a comma, and things like that. And because there are so many people who have grammatical understandings that are messed up, or they're not as literal as they need to be, they will look at what he's saying there and won't interpret it exactly the way he's saying it, just based on that right there alone. And I think it's a lot of ambiguity in that tweet alone in that regard, which is why most people are not taking it the way that I think he intended for it to be taken. Education is very important in this country. And so that's something that needs to be said as well. And interpretation, you know, it can go a lot of different ways. So you just got to be, prayer hands is probably best in situations like that, I tell you, especially for wordy people like us. So that's what it is, man. We learn, we live and we learn. We got to call people human beings when we speak of them on this chess piece thing. I need to get better at that. I don't want to let that be cool and just say, we're going to keep doing that. Not really, because if it rubbed me the right way, I wouldn't be thinking about it. No, I would like to be better at that way. I'd like to call people human beings. I'd like to call you a person. They are, him, she. I'd like to use those proper things better than I do on this camera when I'm talking to Lakers specifically. So if you heard me misspeak, I'd like to get better at that too. But anyway, it is what it is, man. I hope Skip Bayless is able to see where his errors really hurt a lot of people, man. Honestly, where his words were misinterpreted, there were a lot of pain taken. There was a gentleman I saw, he had taken on a real serious spinal injury, you know what I mean? And not to assume he misunderstood what Skip was saying, not at all. I think he understood what Skip was trying to do and wasn't, all that. I think he understood it fully. But what I'm saying is he was telling Skip more or less like that was hurtful reading that, bro. It was hurtful reading that because I had suffered a spinal injury, and this is triggering me back to remember when I went through what I went through, and I don't know what this brother's going through. Hopefully it's not that, but that's essentially what he was saying. It's like, man, I don't want to read that. Like I don't want that's hurtful when I read those words and see what I just saw in this moment. I don't want to read that from you. See what he saw and in my and be in my space what my reality is. It's like Skip didn't even think about that. You're speaking to millions of people, bro. Millions of people with your voice. It's just not like a couple guys at a bar, like, and that's what it is for us. Whatever we perceive is going on the other side of that camera is limited to our understanding. How we perceive the wide public, you know what I mean? It's only limited to your understanding. You know, you think about how celebrities view the world, you know, how anybody views the world for that matter. Like this whole main character thing is like all the rest of everybody else is just subjects in your movie. It's like we got to put the humanity back into our perception. If you want others to have humanity for your life when you're in life or death situation, you had better keep that life or death for others at all times. That's why I think that main character NPC crap, whatever they call it, where everybody's just a side character in your movie, is a demonic energy. That's a demonic perception, because what it does is it makes people discardable. It allows you to take the humanity out of humans and allows you to do what Skip did tonight. It's that mentality. And they're trying to push that propaganda on people so they'll be selfish. And we talk about this type of stuff all the time. You don't think you're the main character. There's a God in the world. There's a God in the world. I'm telling you, he exists. And you are not the main character. He is. That's what it comes down to. So if we're going to believe and understand that, if you're a believer like that, then you better know that is a demonic energy that wants you to think you're the main character and everybody else is discardable. It's what slavery was made of. It's what decimating of people is made of. It's that energy. So everybody's not a person. It's just something that has to be moved out the way to get things done. Don't let it happen, because someone will do it to you. Everybody's a main character till it ain't you. Think about it. They start gentrifying your neighborhood because you ain't no main character. You better get that out your head. So I'm just telling people, man, it's a lot of bad propaganda out there, and there's a reason for it. You know what I mean? It's not just happenstance. I was looking at some of the publications. They couldn't wait to show what happened to Hamlin. The ones that are catered to our children, not CNN. Now, mind you, this I'm watching the publications. No, not all of them. Just the ones that are pointed at our kids. They will show our kids him collapsing on the field through academics, through Dharma's Live, through all these little publications that the kids are watching. But the ones that they're catering to people who are older, who they know won't accept that, who they know are going to push back on it, they won't do it to them. They won't let them see that. They will show a level of respect to those people. That's why I know it's all propaganda, because they know who they're talking to. That's why I say what I say. I got to remember who's on the other side of this thing is not limited to my understanding of who's watching me. Because it's the same mentality. It's understanding that they understand exactly who's on the other end of that thing. We may not. We may view you behind the camera as some guy in the bar I'm talking about, talking sports with. You know what I mean? But that's not how this actually goes for those who know what they're doing. So those who have their voice, like when they use your tweet, when you're tweeting, you better understand that when you're behind that Fox Sports paywall, they ain't doing that. They're not doing that. They're not just shooting from the hip and just not thinking about who's on the other side of that camera. They know who's on the other side of that camera. Okay, so that's what I want to say. It's very important. With that being said, I think it's all been said, man. I want everybody to have a fantastic day. Obviously I'm making this video with the intention of mentioning so many different things that are not so positive, but at the end of the day, what we want to do is just interpret energy properly and not allow people to confuse our words. If we happen to misspeak, you want to make sure you have a good apology ready tomorrow. If you skip Bayless, man, I'll tell you right now, you want to have that ready. And the understanding that you label people in a way that maybe you can kind of take a look at, man. I think that's what it really comes down to. Just like in seeing you make this mistake, I see myself making that mistake. We can take a look at that. There are ways we can do what we do and still provide the humanity of the circumstance. You know what I mean? I don't think we have to just put a shield up and say, no, I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. That's what Skip tends to do. He'll double down on the stuff. It's like, nah, that doesn't help, man. That doesn't help. You, as I always say, just relaying something that doesn't help others into spaces that probably be worse off for them doing what it is that you've done. Yeah, it's all we're doing is leaving room for others to mimic us. And it's like, if you're gonna do that, you know what I mean? It may not work out well for the next guy, that kind of thing. So just gotta care about that kind of thing. I think Skip Bayless, when looking at it, I just think about, like, his dog, Maltese dog. I don't Hazel. He talks about his dog, right? Like that's what matters to him. You see what I'm saying? That's where his humanity is really at. The people he loves and his dog, right? So he needs to try to simulate an understanding that other people have that feeling for other things. Other people have the feeling that he has for his dog Hazel, for different aspects of things that he feels nothing for. That's how I would try to reach him, get him to understand, like, look, bro, where your heart is pointed at, people have their heart pointed at other things. And sometimes when they're talking frivolously, they might say something that will be very hurtful, pointed directly at your dog, Hazel. And if that's the case, you got to simulate that understanding as to how you're affecting others that same way. That same way. Like, yo, it's the equivalent of them being insensitive about Hazel, Skip. You feel? So that is what I'm trying to say. That is exactly the thought that comes to mind. Copy and paste too. Whatever matters to you, man. Somebody thinks about something else a different way that they're just as passionate about, and it may not even be something that crosses your mind. You may accidentally misspeak and trigger that thing. And so let's just try to not let our ego get in the way of that, and they can keep us out of a lot of trouble, I believe. But that being said, I'm thinking about the young man Hamlin. For whatever reason, his first name has escaped me in the moment, and I think it's because I never heard of him until today. But I really want to hear some good news in regards to his health. That is obviously what we're thinking about right now. So that's where I'll leave you with. My name is BDF 44. I thank you all for watching.